I have a question. Do you guys have a favorite creature type? Because I know I do, and a lot of other people do. Some people like dragons, some people like goblins, and some freaks out there like merfolk. But personally, I'm a bit of an oddball. I'm a bit of a freak as well, you might say. And I enjoy spikes. And you might be asking yourself, what the hell is a spike? And honestly, pretty good question. What the hell is a spike? Well, it's not really all that simple, because spikes are, first of all, they are very, very neglected. They haven't seen the light of day since 2015, and when they did see the light of day in 2015, it was through reprints. There hasn't been a new spike in well over, like, I don't know, like 15 years, I think. So, if you don't know what spikes are, I don't completely blame you, but they are really, really cool, I'll tell you that. So, spike is a creature type that was first found in the Tempest block, but the lore on these guys is like pretty much non-existent. The MTG wiki, which I've pulled up right now, because I'm a pro gamer as everyone knows, says that they were likely modified or created by Volrath in the stronghold on Wrath. So Volrath, I know Volrath. He's a commander, and there's like an opening of the guy where he's like a different commander. It's pretty cool, I guess. And I also know of Volrath the Stronghold. That card is pretty damn expensive. But other than that, I have zero clue who these guys are. Volrath Stronghold's flavor success, the seed of all worlds evil. So I assume he's a bad guy. But other than that, I don't know, and I can't imagine the spikes doing bad stuff. So I don't think, again, the MTG Vivi says they were likely created. I don't think it's right. I don't think it's right, because I couldn't imagine my spikes doing evil, except for one guy. We'll get back to him later. So, other than that, what are spikes? Well, again, they're like some sort of weird bug, slug hybrid, mostly slug inspired, I would say. But their facial features, if you can call that a face, is mostly bug inspired. Maybe perhaps for some like a beetle spider mix or of sorts, I would say, like with the pincers, but like also with the eyes and stuff like that. I'm not quite sure. And they are mostly like slug-like, but some of them are very agile. See Spike Rogue, for example. He's doing an ambush on some poor unfortunate soul. But all of these spikes are mono green, except for one guy. We'll get back to that guy later on. I'm not quite done with him yet. But other than that, they also have a unique ability. So first of all spikes, including that one guy who we'll get back to later, are 0/0s, which means that they have 0 power and toughness. And they enter the battlefield with a number of 1/1 counters on it, including that one guy I mentioned earlier. But they also have a unique ability, where you can pay 2 mana, remove a 1/1 counter from a spike, or well, the specific spike in question, and then put a 1/1 counter on target creature. So this ability is not wholly unique to spikes, but it is pretty interesting because every single spike has this ability, except one. We'll get back to him later. I promise you guys, we'll get back to this guy later on when I go over the like mechanics of spikes better. But yeah, other than that, like every spike is just like mechanically the same. They do have some differences. Like of course there are some who enter with more 1/1 counters and have higher mana values and stuff like that. But there are also cards that have like special abilities in addition to the normal spike ability as well. So really, really cool creature type all in all, I would say. And well, that's pretty much my take talk. That's what spikes are. Now, while it is nice to know what a spike is, a perhaps more pressing question would be, when is a spike? And again, very, very good question, guys. I'm glad you're engaged in the video. While you're engaged, remember to like and subscribe. But a spike was first released in 1997 in Tempest. The card released was basically the Ur-Dragon of the spikes. The Ur-Spike, if you will. The grandpa. The big daddy, if you will. Spike Drone. A simple 1/1. Or well, it's a 0/0, but it's a 1 mana 1/1, right? Because it comes in with a 1/1 counter. You guys get it. It's a spike. And it had the classic spike ability. And other than that, just a 1/1. Very, very cool card. Set the precedent for what all the other spikes would do, except for one guy. We'll get back to him later. But the following year, 1998, we got the set Stronghold. And 1998, if you must know, was the year to be a spike fan. Because again, Stronghold gave us 5 whole spikes. An amazing year to be a spike fan. Perhaps even the best year to be a spike fan. Not that it has much like competition, perhaps 1997, I would say. Because the first spike, also a pretty good contender. But we had Spike Worker, Spike Colony, Spike Soldier, and the first 2 rare spikes in Spike Feeder and Spike Breeder. Now, great start to 1998, but it didn't stop there. Later in that year, we had Exodus, which gave us 4 new spikes. We got Spike Rogue, Spike Weaver, and Spike Hatcher, as well as Spike Cannibal, but we'll get back to that guy later on in the video, I promise you guys. It's not gonna be that long from now. But is that the end of spikes? No, not quite, because in 2006, we got the last spike ever seen, and they've been missing ever since then, except for reprints. I get into that a bit later on. But that card was Spike Tiller. Pretty cool card, somewhat unique, not really all that great to be honest, but pretty cool idea, I'd say. Again, but 2006, I was a singular year old at that point, which like, that's just crazy to me. Like, I've been waiting in anticipation for a new spike card ever since, and genuinely, I imagine that a lot of other people have been waiting as well, but like, I don't know, man. I just can't seem to find the spike discourse online. So I don't know. We need to like speak up against this so the Wizards of the Coast knows that we want more spikes in our Magic the Gathering. So like, genuinely, guys, we need to log in here and get some discourse started about this, like, because this is just insane. A reason why I think that it's so insane that we haven't really seen more like spike love from Wizards is because I think that they're like actually a pretty important part of Magic's history. And why do I say that? Well, a good way to like illustrate my way of thinking here is by looking at the reprints for spikes and when they got reprinted. Well, let's look at it first. Okay, we have Spike Weaver and Spike Feeder got reprints, and these reprints are special because they are gold bordered, which means that they were in a World Championship deck. Now, did they win the World Championship? Well, actually, yes, they did. It was piloted by a player called Brian Selton, and he did win the World Championship deck with these spikes. So really, really cool. And it wasn't even like they were just like in his like sideboard if he was going up against an aggressive deck or something who had some like counterplay that could stay alive longer. No. These guys were actually in his main deck. Now, of course, you could have switched them out if you wanted to. I'm not gonna go watch the whole match, but like, they were there. And they have gold bordered reprints. They were part of the strategy, I'd assume. So like, first of all, they're okay, crazy disrespect. The creature type at all hasn't got a reprint since 2015, even though they won a World Championship. Of course, they didn't win all by themselves, but still. Okay, fine. We'll move on. When's the next time that were like cool reprints of spikes? Well, in my opinion, 2011. The Commander Precons, the first Commander Precons ever, featured a spike. Which was it was Spike Feeder again. It's probably the best spike, right? And it was featured in the Commander deck Counter Punch. Now, I do feel like Spike Weaver would have been better in this deck, to be honest, because it's a repeatable fog effect, which is just really, really good. But nonetheless, spikes were featured in this precon, and they were reprinted here as well. Now, when is the last time we saw spikes? I've mentioned it before, 2015. And 2015 did give us actually a good chunk of like spike reprints. It was called Tempest Remastered, I think. That gave us a lot of reprints. And the funny thing about that is, of course, spikes originated in Tempest with Spike Drone, I believe. But Spike Drone didn't get a reprint, and Spike Drone was the only spike from Tempest. The other ones just got reprinted because like spike originated from Tempest, which is like valid enough, I suppose, but like still kind of funny. But like, that's what I'm trying to say here. Like, spikes have been there all along, and then they were just left in the dust from 2015 on. Wizards decided, no more spikes. We hate these guys, and threw them under the bus, and we haven't seen them since. It's a complete disgrace to Wizards, and it's a complete dishonor to spikes. I had to speak up about this because it's actually really important to me, guys. Now, in case you weren't really sold on the whole like spike thing already, I'll go over each and every spike. Of course, there's only 11, so it won't take all that long, guys, don't worry. And tell you why I think they're cool and unique. Now, of course, you have Spike Drone, the Earth Dragon of spikes. It's the OG spike, and it's also the only spike that costs 1 mana. That's pretty cool. We have Spike Breeder. It's a pretty cool card that makes spike tokens, so that's pretty cool. It's like just really cool. I'd say like you can make spike tokens, and like I'm considering like commissioning an artist at some point later on, not right now because I don't really have any money, but like I'm considering commissioning an artist to make like spike tokens. That would be pretty cool. We have a Spike Colony, which is in my opinion just like the best spike creature for being unapologetically ass. Like it enters with 4/1 counters on it, with 5 mana 4/4, and then it has like the normal spike ability, completely dog shit, but it's really funny. We have a Spike Soldier, which its ability is pretty unique because like it's free, of course, but it's not really all that great. It's a pretty cool card, but not all that great. We have Spike Worker, which is like, in my opinion, like what you want to see in a spike. This is like the baseline spike. You template your other spikes from this guy, basically, right? It's pretty cool. Then we have Spycatcher, another card that's unapologetically ass. 7 mana 6/6, but you can remove a 1/1 counter from it and regenerate it, so that's pretty cool, but it's not really all that great. We have Spike Rogue. Spike Rogue is pretty interesting actually, because it's the only card that steals counters from your other stuff and puts it on itself, so that's really cool. We have Spike Weaver, which is probably, in my opinion, the best card for Commander, because it has an ability where you like remove a 1/1 counter from it, and then creatures just do not combat damage this turn. So it's a repeatable fog effect if you can manage to put counters on it consistently. So like really cool card in my opinion. Then we have Spike Tiller. Now Spike Tiller is the only spike that reanimates lands. That's really fucking cool in my opinion. You could probably do something cool with it. Like I don't know what you would do with this, to be honest. There's probably something you could do with it, like other than just the spike ability, but like yeah, it's pretty cool. It's not all like great, but it's pretty cool. We have Spike Feeder, which is probably the most iconic spike of all time, because it was actually like played competitively, right? And again, if you manage to get a lot of counters on it, you can get like near infinite life with this guy and stuff like that if you want to. So like, yeah, also pretty decent card for a Commander, I'd say. Now, the last card that I've been kind of teasing this whole video, saying we'll get back to him later. It's Spike Cannibal, the trader of the spikes. The only one who doesn't have the spike ability, the only one who's mono black instead of mono green, and the only one who literally eats its kin. I don't know if the other guys do that, there's not enough lore about that. But it's the only one that depicts it, at least, right? The other ones at least have the decency to hide it. Except for Spycatcher, I'm not quite sure about that one. I think he's just like birthing them, but I'm not completely sure. But yeah, like, just really gruesome, right? Basically, it's a really fun card though, in Commander, I really like it. It says it comes into play with 1/1 counter on it, so it's a 3 mana 1/1, but when it comes into play, you move all counters from other creatures onto Spike Cannibal. Now this is really cool. First of all, if you run a like reanimated deck with spikes, you can use Spike Cannibal to like kill all of your spikes and then bring them back again, because they enter with the counters on, and then Spike Cannibal will just be like huge, right? Another thing you can do is if you're up against another 1/1 counter deck, you can just yank all their counters. I did this against my friend's keyboard deck, and he completely mauled it. No, he didn't, but like he lost the game from that, right? Just because I played the Spike Cannibal. It's a really cool card. Yeah, but it is a bit of a tragedy that it's eating a little spike when they're already pretty much extinct, right? At least endangered, I'd say, right? So a bit of a tragedy that they eat each other now, according to the law. But we're hoping this guy's an oddball. Now, after watching this far into the video, you're probably sitting there thinking, damn, Uwe, this is like really cool, and I want to build a spike deck myself. How would I go about doing that? Well, the first thing I would say is don't build it for 60 card formats. That's probably not going to work out that well. You could build like a cube or stuff like that with spikes. That would be pretty cool, something you could do. But other than that, I would generally recommend a Commander deck with spikes, because there are a lot of different options you can do. Now, why do I say this? Well, spikes are really cool because you can build them in some different ways. The first one thing you have is, of course, the fact that they are 0/0, so the enters with counters on them. So you can do stuff like manipulating them with their base power and toughness, with Cooler King among Bears, for example. In that case, your things also become Spike Bears, which just sounds really cool. You can also do stuff with like its activated abilities. For example, Professor Hojo, that gives a discount on the first activated ability of your turn by 2. That means your first spike ability is free, and also whenever one or more creatures you control become the target of an activated ability, you draw a card, only once each turn though. But still, it's a 2 mana commander that lets you draw a card each turn basically for free. So that's pretty cool as well. You can also just do stuff with Grumgully if you want to. He's a pretty cool guy. But like my personal pick would probably be Nethroi, Apex of Death. Now, what does Nethroi offer you that's like a benefit in addition to just like being a cool cat nightmare beast? First of all, he has white, black, and green in his colors. This is like the primary 1/1 counters colors, in my opinion, right? You have stuff with like Simic as well, but like these are like the primary ones. In addition to that, it has both green and black in its color identity, so you can run all 11 spikes in the deck if you want to. Now, the primary reasons why Nethroi is so good is because of his mutate ability. It says whenever this creature mutates, return any number of target creature cards with total power 10 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. This means that if someone just board wipe it, or if you just board wipe it, you can play a small creature, mutate Nethroi onto him, and then just get your entire board back. Because, of course, your spikes have base power and toughness 0/0. So they're basically, they enter the battlefield for free with Nethroi, and then you just use your supporting game pieces as well to get those back on the battlefield as well. Because they're probably not going to have total power of toughness 10 or greater, right? So, that's the first thing. Other than that, if you run like some sort of like combo-oriented stuff, you can get like infinite counters on your creatures. You can also just like mutate Nethroi onto that infinitely big creature, or just like big creature in general if you don't want infinites, and you can just swing at them because Nethroi gives a creature lifelink, so that's also pretty nice. So Nethroi is just a really good commander. He doesn't really do anything in the early game, but he can be like a payoff commander, right? Where like you're patient, you wait until someone board swipes you or someone, or like you get a big creature or stuff like that, right? And then he can give you a lot of value, right? So overall, a pretty cool card in my opinion. But like, yeah, with that said, that's like pretty much what I wanted to talk about in this video. I just think spikes are like really, really cool. I like them a lot. And if you like spikes and if you enjoyed this video, please remember to like and subscribe. Leave a comment telling me how much you love spikes and which one is your favorite. Personally, I've mentioned this before, I think, but I think Spike Weaver is probably my mechanically favorite one. But I do really enjoy like Spike Rogue. I just think he's funny as hell. Like he's just like jumping on this other guy. I like that a lot. So yeah, tell me what you think down in the comments, and I'll see you guys in the next video.